science fiction. We make no guarantees, however, how long it will remain fiction. Fiction. Fiction.
Greetings, humanoids. I'm Ayla, and this is Exofathom, the super cool, fun out there show, we hope, that just explores the outer reaches of our understanding and some random stuff. I'm joined today by my two lovely co-hosts, Nick and Mike. Nick, how are you doing today?
Oh, wonderful. Happy Monday to everybody out there.
Happy Monday. And Sir Michael, how are we tonight?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. You know me. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little jealous. I heard Mike just came back from a nap, and I'm a huge fan of naps.
It was lovely. I hung out with some aliens, and then I woke up, and I have to hang out with humans. So it was. I mean, humans are cool, but aliens are cooler.
True. At least these humanoids are going to talk a little bit about aliens. Tonight's show is called We Want to Believe, and it centers around Oumuamua, which was in the news recently because of a certain Avi Loeb. And so, I don't know. Are you familiar with him and this particular concept?
Well, I know about the Oumuamua meteor or alleged spaceship. I don't know about Avi Loeb though, so you're gonna have to educate me on that.
Well, bonus points for allegedly. It's like my favorite word.
Alleged spaceship. Yeah,
we're gonna use that a lot tonight.
Right.
I have no clue about the Oumuamua, the Owie. I'm just gonna try to stay away from that word. But that alleged spaceship.
Yeah.
The Owie.
Oh gosh. Well, thanks. Because now I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh no, I had how to say it and I just lost it. It'll come back. But okay, great. Well, this should be fun.
It's called Oumuamua.
Oumuamua.
Yeah.
There's that.
Spaceship.
Well, spaceship, yes, allegedly. So Avi is actually the chair of Harvard's astronomy department. And last year and more recently, he's come out to say that he believes an interstellar object raises questions about its possible origins. And possible origins, it's like possibly code for possibly being aliens. Just
Big
possibly. Yeah.
Maybe.
Just maybe.
Yeah. Academics are very trepidatious about making any certain statements, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So it's always like, it could possibly be aliens, but it might just be a weather balloon.
As we allegedly saw one time. Well, so just first off, I know we've talked about this in some past episodes, but what do you guys think? Is there life out there beyond our little planet, which we like to think is at the center of the universe, but it's not?
Yeah, I'm kind of two minds of this, to be honest. I could kind of go either way. I could see it where it's like, in my very limited understanding of astrophysics and space, I would venture to say that if there is a possibility that they exist, then multitudes exist. Possibly infinite amounts of different types of aliens would exist. On the other side of my head would think that it's all just dead space. And I forget which. There's a paradox that somebody coined back in the day about, well, if there are aliens, where are they and why haven't they shown up? And I think that's kind of like, that's why I'm a little bit on both sides. Like, I want to believe that there are aliens, but that would mean that there'd be just an endless amount of aliens. And if that's the case, then where are they?
Good point.
Not around here. These are
not around here.
We live in the sticks of the universe.
Yeah, we're the backwater planet. This isn't we're We're not
Right.
anywhere close to the center. We're not popping. We're just way out there.
But you got to think that if even if we're just like a backwater planet that nobody really wants to go around, like you still got to think that even in those backwater areas, people exist. So there's got to be some backwater aliens that come here on vacation.
Yeah, but I mean,
There's
have you
that.
ever like walked into a restaurant where your ex is at the restaurant and you're like, I hope that ex doesn't notice me? Maybe that's what the aliens are like with us. They're just
maybe. I
don't
mean,
see us.
yeah, I don't doubt it for sure. I mean, it would make sense that if they're even able to come here at all, they'd be able to avoid detection, I suppose.
Yeah, and if you go on like vacation, how often do you really connect with the locals? You just stick to your touristy spots. So, maybe
Well, it depends on
maybe
where your vacation is. But yes, I get your
that's
point.
true.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, and then the second question is why because when I think of aliens, I think of like little green men, little green creatures. Where do you think that came from? What do you like? That's just a funny thing that I wanted to bring up because I was like, I don't know the first like image of an alien, but maybe it's Roswell. But yeah, just I don't know. Of all the different forms aliens could take.
I think the first record or documented like image of a little green man or that sort of gray alien was from Aleister Crowley.
Really?
Yeah, I could be wrong about this. So if anybody's out there listening, you can fact check me. But I do believe that the origin of the features of the gray aliens came from a channeling that Aleister Crowley did of a demon.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I think that's correct. I do need to do research. I apologize. So if I'm spitting BS, then I do apologize. But I do
It sounds good.
I do think that there's something along those lines. Like he helped coin certain features of the gray alien.
Yeah, I always thought it was the Roswell thing, or just like information or misinformation from the government being leaked out. That sort of angle.
Yeah, I think that probably stands for the little green men. I think that's where that came from for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. I was trying to think back, and anyone who's listening out there, to just think about the first time you were introduced to the concept of interstellar alien life. I want to say it was my parents watching X-Files late at night, and like I would hide in the kitchen so I could also watch what they were watching. And I think that's when I started to get like a sense about interstellar aliens. But
Isn't it funny that we had to sneak watching the X-Files?
Yes, it's a
Strange.
shame now. Well, and go ahead, Mike.
No, like one of the first movies I saw as a kid was Devil's Advocate. So there was like no parental guidance at all when it came to it. Anything was fair game. So I'm trying to think if I saw like Aliens as a kid, but I'm not too sure. But Michael was a big 80s sci-fi fan, so it might have been Predator or Aliens. But I definitely had like early exposure to that stuff. Exposure.
No, an explosion of exposure via action films. That makes sense. Nick, do you remember the first time you came, like an alien presented itself in a book or a movie or a conversation?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, there's been many times actually.
But the first memory.
Well, the first memory of an alien, I mean, like in movies, I'd probably have to say it was like, oh, dude, that's a good question. Maybe Marvin the Martian.
Oh,
Looney Tunes.
right.
Like, that's kind of like the first. I think I can remember as the first sort of alien. But then also I was watching like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm sure there was an alien in that.
True.
Or G.I. Joe or something like that. So it's possible that it could have been something else. But yeah, Marvin the Martian for sure. That's probably one of the first ones.
And that's so funny, right? Because he has a helmet, a little like kilt or skirt. He's got little shoes.
Like a pleated skirt.
Yeah. And then to go from there to like a gray alien. I just think that the imagery that we've come up with in, popular culture or, I don't know, like side discussion. I just think it's really interesting.
Have you ever seen With a Real Martian Please Stand Up? It's a Twilight Zone episode. That was also another early one I had. but like the aliens in that look far more human-like, and
Ooh.
like some of them wear hats. So like one of the guys has like a restaurant hat, like an old school, like an old school restaurant, like diamond shaped hat, and then when he takes it off, he has a third eye underneath his hat, and I thought it was pretty cool.
Freaky.
Yeah, well, they could be among us, right? That's like another option.
Yep.
Is it something that's a little bit similar, or is it like totally off? We don't know. Were you going to say something else?
No, I mean, I was just gonna say, I think if they do exist, then they're already here, and just chilling, just hiding. Because I mean, like, look at all the planets around us, and who knows what their planet looks like. So, this place might be a paradise compared to wherever they come from. So why not just chill here and blend in?
Well,
I mean, blending in is a big part of human behavior too, right? Like we do it socially.
I did find the reference that I was speaking about the gray aliens sort of like taking from Aleister Crowley.
Ooh,
So in 1919, Aleister Crowley did a channeling for a creature he called Lamb, Lam. And that creature he drew, and it became sort of like it kind of took on to then be adopted by like the sort of ufologists and people who believed in gray aliens. And I can show you a picture, but just give me a second if you want to take that.
Yeah, sure. And while you're looking that up, I was thinking about what Mike was saying, how they could be among us. And I think a fun exobit sometime would be to talk about octopi, and specifically the research that shows just how alien they are to most bioentities on this planet. And then there's a really great documentary. It's My Octopus Teacher. And I think it's just such a groovy film. So you should definitely check that out.
Yeah, octopus are very strange. Their DNA is nothing like anything else on Earth.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Chill. They're pretty chill animals, and they're the only ones that need amnestics before you do surgery on them.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Well, they're very intelligent as well. Oh, Nick's got his photo
yes.
up.
This is the drawing that Aleister Crowley did in 1919 of Lamb.
1919. Whoa.
Yeah. And so
he's so contemplative. Look at those eyes.
Yeah. And so that I think that this is kind of where you get this sort of archetype of a large-headed, small-eyed, small-mouthed, small-nosed sort of creature, the gray alien.
And then it's interesting because you wonder, like, did he ever visit? Isn't it like parts of South America? There might be like paintings or something like that, or imagery. I feel like if you look back in time, there's like hieroglyphs that you could argue is very similar to that kind of proportionality.
In the Incan sort of tradition, they actually elongated the head. They wrapped the baby's heads and elongated them purposely.
Right. Like, where was the inspiration for that? Was it an alien? Was it not? Do comment and let us know. And the reason I'm going into all of this is just because I wanted to start off with something that Dr. Loeb had mentioned in one of the lectures I saw with him. And it was really talking about the way that the scientific community dismisses the search for intelligent life. And to highlight that, here are just a few of the article headlines concerning Oumuamua and his assertions that it could be signaling a visitor. So we have astronomer Avi Loeb says aliens have visited, and he's not kidding. Another one says a Harvard astronomer is more confident than ever that an alien probe visited us in 2017. Notice in both of these titles, they make a point to add Harvard or astronomer to really just be like, we're not crazy. There's a smart guy and he said something, right?
Yeah, it's called front-loading authority, right? So you do that in news articles to establish an amount of trust and credibility with what you're saying.
Which seems smart. Like, I'd much rather hear this theory from an astronomer than, like a barfly, right? Local barfly says there's eight. Like, I wouldn't be as inclined.
Well, that and
what if that barfly is an astronomer?
Yeah, it could be.
It could
Well,
be
but
him.
it also demonstrates how easily words can kind of sort of, I know this isn't the topic, but how easily words can kind of sort of paint and narrate our understanding of things. Because if they had the article said disgraced Harvard XYZ, then you would have been like, oh, this guy's nuts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's very true. Yeah.
The ethos of the argument. So like that's why you'll see you'll see people when they just make any sort of argument, they have to give themselves some sort of authority type role, or else why would you listen to them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting that we've adapted to really need that. I mean, I totally see the reasoning behind it, but in this case, I'll share just a couple more headlines. Have aliens found us? A Harvard astronomer on the mysterious interstellar object Oumuamua. Professor Avi Loeb, it would be arrogant to think we're alone in the universe. I think that's kind of an interesting title because the word alien is withheld entirely. And it's a much more sophisticated description of what they talk about. There's also Harvard astronomer argues that alien vessel paid us a visit. And the next one is why aliens likely exist and visited us in 2017, comma, according to Harvard's top astronomer.
Of course. I have a question for you before you go forward. And this is to both of you and Mike, because I'm kind of wondering this in my head. And part of this probably will dovetail on what you're talking about. But which is scarier? The possibility that there is an infinite amount of aliens in the universe, or that there are zero?
I love that question because I've also thought about that. And I think that's kind of, I definitely want to bring that up in this episode because I think that Avi has a lot to teach us about the way that we think and contextualize this discussion, especially since we're able to observe so much more and travel more, and we're learning new things all the time. I think this is a really good time to reevaluate maybe the way that we talk about this in public spaces. Mike?
Yeah, I think it's scarier if we're alone. Only because that puts the weight of the universe on us. Like we would have to be the ones to engineer and do some gene splicing and make some new life. Otherwise, we also have to be the ones to escape a local solar system first, right? To propagate life forward. And seeing the state of all of our civilizations, it seems like we can't even get past a close planet. Not to sound arrogant, I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist or anything like that. But there is a comfort in knowing that even if humans fail as a species, there'd be some other species to at least carry on this idea of intelligent life.
You could see us like pandas and like rescue us one day, and like all those humans on Earth, they did it again.
Yeah,
but I agree with you.
I mean, on the bright side, wait, did you just compare us to pandas?
I did.
Well, on the bright side, we're definitely good at procreating, so we don't have to worry about that. I think we have to worry about the moving technologically forward without losing our minds or starting to do things like genocide.
Well, I'm thinking more along the fact that the pandas eat sugarcane and that's it. It's like if I just ate Skittles all day, what's going to happen to me? It's not going to be good.
They eat bamboo, so it would be more like if you ate grass.
Oh.
Yeah. Not sugar.
There goes that.
Yeah.
I think a meme lied to me. I totally just saw something where they were, dissing pandas because of their like nutritional choices. Yeah. And I just believed it.
Yeah. Well, I just think that it's an interesting question, and I'm sure we'll loop back on it, but it does have weird implications existentially either way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I think and I somewhere in here I talk, maybe I didn't explicitly, but yeah, I mean, like, what would the existence or lack of existence of aliens or extraterrestrial life, what does that have, what implications would it have for like religion, for
Mhm.
our understanding of, ourselves and our place? Not just, I mean, we would be thinking about like Earth time, Earth people versus universal, universe people. What if there is a planet that's closer to the center of the universe? And, as humans, we like to categorize and have hierarchies and stuff like that. So I think that there would be a really weird response if suddenly we're thrust into this, like, I don't know, this universe of multiple existences, and like, I mean, again,
It
I'm
would
thinking
be
Star Trek. I would love it to just be like, let's all just
it would be a humbling experience, and if monotheism still, is, if we find out that that's the thing, then it explains why we can say God works in mysterious ways, because it's just
Mhm.
too busy handling all the other planets, probably falling into some version of their own chaos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It
they
seems
could have gods too. And if they have gods on their world, what does that do to our gods? Or is it the same, or are they different somehow?
They're probably
Yeah.
all just chilling, laughing.
These little entities, look at them try.
I think for the hope of humanity, I would like to say that, I would like to see a universe that was populated with aliens. I think that we'd be
Mm.
doomed. I think we'd be doomed if we found out that we're alone in the universe.
Sounds
Although,
crushing.
well, it is crushing in one sense, but then in the religious sense, it might be comforting for a lot of people.
Mm.
Because if you think that you're the only one in this universe, then God made this rock for us. So it's weird. That's why I think it's an interesting question, because like there's multiple ways in which it could be twisted socially to, sort of unravel or solidify society.
Mm.
Do some engineering, some social engineering.
Front loading those articles. Well, and I think, you raise a really good point, and I think this is something that Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb is in alignment with. He, again, in this lecture that I watched, he was saying that we really should use our technology to explore the existence of intelligent life, something which the public is fascinated by, and scientists are just dismissing it as outside the mainstream of astronomy. And he really doesn't understand, because the public is interested, the public is funding science, and how dare the scientists say that this is a question they don't want to address.
Yeah.
And when I say that the public is fascinated by it, so we saw those news articles, and in a separate interview, he was quoted as saying, "I've been losing sleep because in order to cope with all the media requests, I've been doing interviews. For example, Good Morning Britain at 1:50 a.m. and Coast to Coast at 3 a.m., plus appearances on U.S. network and cable television. I've got 100 podcast interviews in the next few weeks. I've already recorded long conversations, and it's just, he's already got 10 filmmakers and producers wanting to talk to him. And, they wouldn't be doing that if there wasn't money and interest, right?"
Well, and then it seems to me, then it's like also like, so what was the trepidation about an actual accredited person coming forward and saying something like this? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
if
Well,
the
he might-
reception, what's that?
He might be ostracized by his
Yeah.
peers.
And that's
So-
and then that's what I was going to get to. Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's what's key in his framing of this discussion is, he puts forth his argument, for why this this object is evidence for him of having a sort of visitor. But he also front loads that conversation with this more larger discussion about, why is, as a person of science, it frowned upon for him to speak of such things. And I think
Yeah,
that's something
and-
that, goes deep to us, from the Martian, the aliens, to the little green men. We've kind
it's
of
also-
boxed in this concept.
Well, it's also the gatekeeping in academia, right? So it's like the irony of academia is that it becomes, when it's unchecked, it becomes a system of gatekeeping that stifles any sort of progress. And which is funny because like the same sort of energy that these people are keeping scientists from critically and seriously looking at alien life is the same energy that kept scientists from looking at whether the Earth was round.
Yeah.
You know what I
Or
mean?
black
Like
holes existing.
yeah, exactly. And it's just it's this sort of like very antiquated system, or it's a system that antiquates over time and then becomes very rigid. And you need people to kind of explode it open and break it apart a little bit once in a while in order to actually
Move
progress the
forward.
community. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It may it's an experiment though that it may not fit in the scientific method in their model either, because different independent researchers would have to be able to repeat some experiment. And if aliens show up to exist, I mean, they don't have to go to a scientist and be like, hey, we're here. They could just kind of pop up on camera and show themselves to anyone, right? So it removes some of the prestige too that comes along with scientific discovery. Like to claim that a big part of it is like to be the first to claim that you found or didn't find something. And if you're the first to claim to find it and other people can repeat it, then you've kind of validated your experiment and all as well. And all that on that front, I think they might be interested in other matters than being humbled by something far more intelligent than them just dropping on Earth and being like, what's up?
Yeah, I think it's also a matter of just whether, like you said, it's a matter of whether it's fruitful for them. Because really, I mean, like, what better and what more accolades and scientific notoriety can you get if you actually definitively prove that there is life outside of Earth? So I think it's really more about what they think is fruitful and what they think is a waste of time. And I think they think that looking for life outside of Earth is a waste of time. Let's just keep it to the numbers. Let's study astral bodies and do the physics on it. We'll put a rover on Mars to look at rocks, even though we've done it 7 times, like, so it's like there's these things that we like to do in space that and that's it. Like we're just now going to put another person on the moon, apparently, but who knows if that's going to happen anymore. But like we did that once and we were like, okay, we're done with that. We don't want to do that anymore, like, and so it's just like this very rigid sort of like, what's the utility in that? And I kind of understand it because it's like, well, if you're going to be fiscally responsible, do you want to spend a whole bunch of taxpayer money looking for things that might not exist? That is reasonable to sort of look at. But it's also, if there's people that are interested in it, I think a lot of us are interested in finding out this answer. I mean, we've been storming Area 51 and trying to declassify, UFOs for the past 40 years. So,
correction, when he says we, he's meaning the universal we.
Yeah,
None of us
we didn't
have
do
pride.
it. No.
Oh, I was
Just
not
the
there
point
at
of
all.
pride, I don't.
I was not Naruto running towards
Yeah. What a silly thing.
Although in retrospect, because I watched, I think it was the gas. What is it? That YouTuber that we like?
Gas, no breaks.
Yeah, and he went there, and it kind of just looked like a party. I was like, well,
It was. There was no crimes committed. Nobody trespassed. Nobody like basically it was just a whole bunch of people playing music outside of the gates. That's it.
So finding life outside of Earth implies that we found it, right? That we have the technological edge versus them finding us.
Mm-hmm.
So there even might be a weird, because the way we always pose it is that alien ship lands here, and that's more like alien life, like we're being observed, or we find proof that we're being observed, and so that just might also be a terrifying thing to find out.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think that again, Avi Loeb would agree with you, Nick. He was talking about how the search for intelligent life is actually more relevant than dark matter, multiverse, or extra dimensions. Things we'll never observe, and yet are a part of the mainstream conversation.
And that's the sexy stuff.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I just, again, it's just you say aliens and people are like, oh my God, you're crazy. But you're like, no, it's fun to just think about this stuff. And I think, about the rigidity aspect of the sciences, I get that there's a discipline and you want to be really tight with your metrics and your data and your things. But the thing is that I studied philosophy of science, and one of the things that emerged through my readings is that a true scientist actually wants to be proven wrong. And I think that's why I titled this I Want to Believe, because I don't know if they're out there. I can't say one way or the other, but I kind of want to believe that they are, simply for the fact that I don't like the idea of us being alone in such a vast universe with Earths that we've found, or like, super Earths or something like that. And so to just kind of bring this on to Oumuamua, unless, did you guys want to add anything before I move into it?
No, I mean, I think that, I don't know. I don't know the usefulness of either, conclusion, to be honest, but I think it's one that we're definitely going to be asking for quite a long time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, aren't we supposed to have some reports come out soon?
Yes, actually. At the beginning of this year, the Pentagon was given 180 days to declassify all of their UFO material. So we'll see.
6 months, right? So June?
Yeah, somewhere around June will probably be happening. But, it's going to be, get ready for a lot of redacted pages. Get ready for a lot of redacted pages. I've looked through those declassified things. They'll redact a whole bunch if they want to.
Hopefully it's like the Canadian redaction, and it just kind of comes out light gray.
Right. Or if you put it through like a program, you can you can take off the MS Paint sort of line that was on it.
They use MS Paint to redact.
Yeah. So it happened. It actually happened once, I think, with a WikiLeaks something. So like apparently this happened, and where it was like they got their hold on like a cache of leaked documents, but they were redacted. No, they were declassified. So it wasn't illegal. They were declassified documents that were redacted. What some clever people found was if they ran it through like MS Paint or something like that, they were able to remove the redactions because they were just putting little rectangles on like MS Paint or something onto
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, my experience in legal offices is you print that out, you hand redact, then you scan it, digitally scan. I mean, that's the same thing with like face filters. Apparently you can undo them pretty easily. So that's kind of interesting. But
linear transformation. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, well, let me just give a little background about Oumuamua. 1, 2, 3. It's like 4 paragraphs, so settle in. On October 19, 2017, astronomers spotted a strange object traveling through our solar system, and they later described it as a, quote, red and extremely elongated asteroid, end quote. Now, it's the first known interstellar object to visit our solar system, and was discovered by the University of Hawaii's Pan-STARRS-1 telescope, which is funded by NASA's Near-Earth Object Observations program. And it's kind of cool, actually. It finds and tracks asteroids and comets in Earth's neighborhood, just to make sure that we don't get, any surprises. Now, it was originally classified as a comet, but observations of it revealed no signs of cometary activity after it slingshotted past the sun on September 9, 2017, at a blistering speed of 196,000 miles per hour. Or 87.3 kilometers per second. It was then, now just 87.3 kilometers per second. So it's fast. It was then briefly classified as an asteroid until new measurements found that it was accelerating slightly, a sign that it behaves more like a comet. So, okay, it's a comet that doesn't act like a comet. The following October, Avi co-wrote a paper with Harvard postdoctoral fellow Shmuel Bialy that examined Oumuamua peculiar acceleration and suggested that the object may be a fully operational probe sent intentionally to Earth's vicinity by an alien civilization. So it's kind of juicy. And I just, it's just, again, I front loaded all of that with, this guy's a scientist, he's super smart, we da. But even that last sentence is hard for me to believe, right? A fully operational probe intentionally sent to Earth by an alien civilization. I mean, that's like Klingons or Ferengi or
Well, it
the
also
Cube.
just I don't know if it necessarily makes practical sense either. It seems as though that if you're going to send a probe to your destination, you wouldn't just like send it to the destination just to pass the destination, then whip around the destination's, solar deity and then leave. You know what I mean? Like,
unless you can manipulate like time space, and it was here a lot longer than we were able to observe.
I mean, that's sure. I mean, it is interesting that it accelerates and, it's moving faster than what a normal, I guess, cosmic, cosmic nomadic body. But, it is strange. It's very weird. I mean, even the fact that if it's just a comet or a meteor, the fact that it came from a different solar system is very odd because we don't normally get that kind of stuff. I mean, this is the first time we've ever seen one. So
first interstellar object. Yeah, no, it's pretty big. And, for as many interviews as Professor Loeb has been doing, I hardly came across much of this stuff back in 2017. Like, I didn't even know this happened until I forget how I stumbled upon it. I think he did an interview last December or something like that. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, it was hot for like a week and then that was it. So,
Yeah, no, for sure.
Well, it happened in 2017 though, right?
It did. Yes, it happened in
October?
2017. Let me see. What was the dates? Yeah, in October.
What
And
date?
then October 19.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But then it's weird because they also talk about it slingshotting on September 9. So I want to take a little more care to get into like the nitty gritty of Loeb's argument. But it's a little bit too smart for me. So I'm going to need to study that a bit more. But one of the things that I think like a year after it was observed is when Avi was like, I'm going to write this paper because I'm noticing some things. And what's interesting is in his first paper, he calls it peculiar acceleration. He says it may be a fully operational probe. Operative word may. But he does have a book coming out. And since then, like more recently, he's come out and said, no, it is for sure like our first sign. And I thought that shift was really interesting. Where I don't know, maybe if it's just the more he's been talking with people that he feels better about it. But
there does seem to be and this is somebody who's been, I've been keeping my eye on the UFO community for at least 20 years now. It seems to me that there is a continuous sort of progression, especially within the last 5 to 6 years, of more and more being released that is actually priming the public for accepting the existence of UFOs. Now, I don't know what those UFOs are. We don't know whether they're military spacecraft that just have not been declassified yet. I don't know if it's aliens, but there has been sort of this uptick and sort of push to mainstream the alien conversation within the last 5 years. And I really remember this happening. Tom DeLonge went on Joe Rogan's podcast like 6 years ago. And basically said, like, you're going to see all of this stuff about disclosure of UFOs and aliens and all of that. And Joe Rogan rolled his eyes at him for 3 hours and made fun of him. And I still haven't seen Joe Rogan apologize to Tom DeLonge, because ever since he's been on, ever since that episode, more and more has been coming out. We've had the Tic Tac video, and we've had Commander Fravor from the Air Force come out and say that he
Tic Tac video.
Yeah, the biggest. So the 3 biggest videos of UFOs that we have right now were released by the U.S. Air Force, and it was captured.
I saw one of those.
Yeah, it was captured by Commander David Fravor, and he was an Air Force pilot. And during one of his scrambles, test scrambles or exercises, he and his crewmen found or came across these UFOs that were going speeds that they couldn't keep up with. I believe he said that he witnessed the Tic Tac UFO go from something like 6,000 feet above sea level to 1 foot above sea level in a second. So like, if you want to listen to his stuff too, it's really fascinating, because he's an actual pilot and he got to see these things in action. But I mean to say that just to say that there's been an uptick in this sort of normalization and sort of introducing the I guess you could call it the normies to the concept of alien life, or at least UFOs that are high tech. And so I think that they could be 2 things. It could be either aliens, or it could be our government finally saying, hey, we got all the tech to do this stuff, and we were kind of keeping it hush hush. Sorry, you guys are flying in tin cans while we're, jet setting around the world in seconds.
Right. Well, I think it's what's that? Yum yum num num. I didn't hear you. Sorry.
That's always what they've done, though. Is just incrementally release new information or new technologies, right? At least to civilian world. 'Cause, I mean, it seems smart, and you want your military to have the best.
Well, I think but I think it's also one of those things where, like, if I was in a position of country leadership, I would be thinking about the sociological implications. I would also be thinking about defense, right? Because people panic. So I need to figure out, like, how do I present this without leading to panic? How do I rule out that it's not earthly entities? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like another country's defense. They came up with the cool aircraft or something like that. And how do I rule out, like, privatized scientists? Maybe it's just a rocket ship in a weird, configuration that somebody put together. People are often putting money into hoaxes too. So,
well, see, it's actually disastrous either way, because the implications are that if there's a craft like this that could move like that, would change the face of the earth and humanity for the rest of time. So if one of our governments, including our own, has this technology, they've kept it from us for a very long time. This means infinite energy. This means no more starvation. This means no more.
That assumes that they understand it. You can have something appear and not really know.
Let me just finish my point.
Okay.
My point is that this could be craft that our governments already have created, and this isn't alien at all. So if that's the case, then that means they have technology that could have basically solved all of the world's problems. Seriously.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
if a craft like this, if we had a craft like this that was able to move like this and manipulate time and fold the fabric of space in front of it, like a lot of the people say, then we would be able to create a utopia on Earth. And that is a scary supposition, that our governments and countries have been keeping this secret just because it's better as a weapon, more profitable as a weapon.
I mean, I guess there's, like, a lot to say about that too, though, because in that example, like, what are the materials? Like, is it something that takes 4 trillion to make? Because if that's the case, it's as good as we don't have it, right? Like, and so is it easily mineable for what it's made out of? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, some of this stuff,
Iron Man's or what's that? Maybe it's unobtainium, but you know what I mean? Like the shield that Captain America has.
Yeah, vibranium.
Oh, yeah. And it's, like, hard to come by. So, there could be that at play. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns. But I do think that, like, you're right. There has been more information. And I don't know if it's just, like, the internet and like the abundance of Netflix documentaries about this, you know what I mean, and podcasts.
It's not just that. There's been an attitude shift from the narrative establishers. So before, like we were talking in the scientific community, how they're closed-minded and rigid about UFOs, that was kind of the attitude about it from the establishment, politicians, the media, Hollywood, all these influences. They kind of relegated it to being crackpot science. But in the past 5 years, they've changed their tone on it.
But, you know, I watched a documentary and it was talking about the presidential race of, I want to say it was Jimmy Carter. And it was like during his presidential like speeches and stuff like that, he was actively saying like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this alien thing. And like people were all about it. And it was in newspapers and everybody was for it. Then he gets to the presidency and then he's like, well, I checked it out, guys. There's nothing to see here, you know?
Well, every U.S. president has always said something along those lines.
Right.
The
So
aliens
that's weird,
one is
right?
a big
Like
one.
if they're always acknowledging it, but then like
Well, they use it
right,
as a tool to get elected. That's just my cynical sort of outlook on it, is that they probably didn't know that they were going to get any information in the first place. They probably don't get very much information about it if it exists at all. And they just use it as a, I mean, look, the last president we had did it too. I mean, look, what the last 3 presidents we've had have said we'll declassify the alien stuff.
Mike,
and it
what
just
do you
hasn't
think?
happened. So
right.
About what, like, so I really wouldn't be shocked if we had alien technology, or if there was alien tech. The peculiar movement doesn't really freak me out either. Like, if they're so far advanced, then you're dealing with like antimatter, reverse gravity, just like creating its own gravitational fields, things like that, which doesn't seem too far-fetched. There's also been other people who have been slated as conspiracy theorists, but if you do any sort of like body language analysis on them while they're talking in interviews, there's really nothing stating that they're being deceptive or they're being like they're fabricating things.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been found like an archaeological dig sort of thing, and the resources may not be of here. They may be hard to find. So like creating a utopia out of it, just as you said earlier, just may not be fruitful to do, you know, and it may not even be possible. So why even give people hope that if we used all these resources, then, you know, we can create this utopia, when in reality, if we try to use all the resources, it'll all be gone, and then people are angry that they have to starve or something like that.
Well, it could be stand to say that they use the resources to create weapons, because if these things do exist, they're made for weapons and nothing else.
Well,
So,
I mean, that might be the
In
only thing
one
that they can
scenario.
do, is to like maintain the status quo, right? Because all things considered, the world, I mean, it's rocky, but it's not like Dark Ages rocky, right? Like we're doing okay. We have Wi-Fi, and at least in the Western world, right?
yeah.
We have
We're doing
Wi-Fi. We can
okay.
argue. We can argue about crazy, silly things. Like all things being considered, you don't have to worry about your neighbor bashing your head in with a rock or something, right?
Yeah.
So to maintain that status quo, it may be okay to weaponize this sort of tech, or these sorts of resources. Could they use it for something better? Sure, but like you've shown your hand, and someone's going to take it and reverse engineer it and then turn it into a weapon. Right, like that 2001: A Space Odyssey thing. Like some of the first tech made, the only reason why it was made was for weapons, was to kill stuff. So that could just be an innate human nature sort of thing. But no, like it's always been kind of seen as, I guess, nutty or conspiracy theory by government standards, I guess, or that's been the narrative being pushed, and that might have been pushed through academia and had a wider effect on everyone. But I don't find it so far-fetched that a planet would do an initial scan for life. And if they've been around far longer, then they may understand how technologies age over the long run. So they may not need to have something in orbit constantly. they may only need to do it once and then just go home because they figure out, well, you know, we could come back and check in the X amount of time. Especially if they can warp it and get here real fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, you both raise really interesting points just in terms of how we think about this, you know, like just like if you're listening, think 5 years into the future. Imagine a scenario where we do find out aliens exist, right? Or intelligent life or whatnot. Or like in Mars Attacks, you know, like they land here. And then just think retroactively, like, gosh, you know, it's like when we learned the earth is round, you know. It's a big leap in information, but then when you know, hindsight's 2020, you could look back and start to wonder, like, gosh, we really wasted a lot of time. We could have been preparing just the way that we think about this. Or, you know, like I always wonder, like, if aliens show up, who gets to study and interface with them, right? Like international
makes-
politics people, zoologists, biologists, astronomers,
Maybe they
right?
just
Like,
don't
who's the
want to be
first
celebrities.
person?
Maybe that's
Yeah.
what they're afraid of.
Maybe.
Just like, we just don't have enough of us to go down there.
Well, and it kind of makes me wonder if perhaps we're never supposed to find the aliens. Like, maybe that's part of the design. Because I think about it, like, if we found out there were hierarchies of advanced aliens in our universe or surrounding solar systems, it kind of takes the ultimate fate of humanity off of the humans themselves, right? Because then it's like, well, you know, maybe these people can teach us how to live. Maybe these people can tell us what to do. Maybe these, you know, things. I mean, like, at what point do we just turn our attention to these aliens as sort of the arbiters of what humanity should do, instead of being left to our own devices, like, you know, the Prime Directive, right? So it's like, instead of being left to our own devices to try to get to that point on our own, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we already do that already, right? Like, we turn to Elon Musk to get us to Mars, right? It's not like everyone's out in the backyard trying to figure out how to build rockets or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, but Elon Musk is still considerably human, I think, and at least there's a level of humanity in that, in fact, that we are doing the thing instead of saying, "Hey, oh, please, Sky Daddies, will you govern
Sky
us?"
Daddies.
You know.
Oh man, could you imagine that? Could you imagine that big Sky Daddy government money coming down?
Yeah, right.
Those resources coming down. We're like, all right, now you've figured it out. You're fine.
It just comes
No.
off. It shoots down to your house like one of those loot boxes in like a first-person shooting game.
Amazing.
You know, like, get your gear and load out.
But I mean, there's be a lot of comfort in that though, too. You know, but I can see where, I guess, other, like, there would be some sort of vetting process or some sort of initiation to be like, all right, we've tried to give other species all this stuff before and it hasn't worked out so great. But then again, you can still make those micro arguments of, like, comparing that to something like UBI, right? Like, if we give everybody income, it's not going to work. If we give every species that we find, every halfway intelligent species we find, the resources to level up to our level, it's not going to work. So maybe there could be some even like intergalactic politics. And the worst case is that they're not as smart as we hope, and they're just up there bickering in some big bureaucracy, and that's why they haven't came around. So you can't get a vote passed or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's that. And who are we to accelerate that process? Well, and I think,
just want to vote.
well, and I think too, you know, like, to your point, it might not work for all, but it could work for some. And I think in most cases, the argument of what's acceptable for the some, it's like, yeah, things get really sticky. And I think it's just interesting thinking about it as if we accepted the existence of aliens, and then, like, what does that do for our sense making around everything? And if you want a really interesting read, I can post this in the comments. There's a National Geographic article about some folks that are studying, like, how people would react to alien life discovery. And I thought one of the interesting things was they were talking about the discovery of microbes on Mars. And one of the researchers said nobody rioted in the street, despite the fact that these were aliens a mere 35 million miles away. I think it's because most people don't regard microscopic extraterrestrials as either threatening or enlightening.
They don't have faces. We only care about faces.
Faces. Oh yeah,
Seriously.
it's an exobit.
If we found gelatinous blobs in space that had sentience, we wouldn't care about them. They don't have faces. We don't care.
Until they like killed a human.
We're the same about
Right.
animals here. We're the same
True.
about. We don't care about any animals that don't have cute faces.
It's so true.
Well, not
know?
everyone. I mean, maybe you have some.
Okay, but they're talking about save the cows, but they don't care about farming crickets and then creating a mass genocide every time you have a burger.
Hey,
I
some
mean,
people.
you
do.
know, like,
Oh God.
What about cricket powder?
yeah,
It's even worse.
cricket powder, exactly. How many crickets had to be ground into a meal?
I went
like-
to a
It's like the most
silkworm
horrific
farm.
thing.
Yeah, I went to a silkworm farm. I don't think I could ever wear real silk. Like
It's cruel.
they just leave them in the sun to like burn to death, and then they
Yep.
take their string. But my point is this psychologist. His name's Doug Vakach, I want to say. He's quoted as saying, "With each passing month, we learn about more exoplanets around other stars, many of them potentially habitable. The routine announcements of the discovery of yet more exoplanets circling other stars has made it seem all the more plausible that life could be distributed throughout the universe. To learn that life has been found on Mars would be no big revelation in the minds of many people." And I think to your point, this article goes on to just talk about like harmless microbes versus something that could again be threatening or enlightening. And I think really in at least Avi's discussion, the operative word is intelligent life. I think that, you know, if you think about it, humans, we can talk to one another, but we can't talk to a dog specifically. We can't talk to a horse. We don't have an equal with which to contemplate our reality. Maybe
Oh,
that's
but we
why
would-
we focus on AI. But the idea of having an interstellar intelligent life form that could communicate with us from their neck of the woods, that would be like, you know how much information we would gain from such a
Oh,
dialogue?
but we would lose our shit if we found a space dog. Are you
A
kidding me?
space dog.
Yeah, imagine if we found a planet that was just inhabited by puppies, but like space puppies.
Oh,
You know what I
man.
mean?
Be
I
so
mean,
dank.
I'd
They
be
would
super happy.
So dank.
It would be. I mean, we would move the heavens in order to bring that planet closer to us or figure out a way to inhabit it. You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
I mean, I guess I would be more terrified of intelligent microbes, like a venom
oh,
type
geez.
thing, like an intelligent parasite
Venom.
type thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
that would be the worst.
That could
And you don't-
understand us and
Yeah, and can just hop in and just all of a sudden you start hearing voices in your head. And it's
Mhm.
like, no,
Like-
no, I'm actually inside of you. I'm in your bloodstream.
Like
Now
the
I'm in your
X-Files
head.
movie. The X-Files movie that had that black goop that
Yeah.
was like taking people over
Yes.
and stuff. Yeah.
yes.
Creepy
Well,
stuff.
it is creepy stuff. And to get moving towards more creepy, one of the questions I think you asked, Nick, was if aliens exist, why did they never show up, or why now, right? So if we are to assume that Avi is correct and that this is the first interstellar, visit that we've had, then why 2017? So I went through and I looked up some of the hot news that year. I'm sure there's more stuff, but I just tried to kind of do quick Google searches and pull from like Scientific America and like, reputable sources that way. So here's just a couple of things, and feel free to interrupt me if any of these items to you seem to be the thing that would have brought an alien here. I tried to kind of tier it upwards. So in 2017, scientists could finally observe celestial phenomena through the radiation they emit and the ripples they create in space-time. to put that in different terms, we have the capability to observe more than we previously could. So in some ways, that kind of feels like something that resonates with me, because you asked about like why we keep going to Mars. Well, I think because we can transport technology that has the ability to see farther, and we can put that on Mars so it's further out, there's less light noise, and it can get more precise information about those exoplanets, or maybe curve around planets that we have blind spots on. So that's just one thing that happened in 2017. Another thing was quantum teleportation took place in 2017, and scientists could provide the basis for an as yet unrealized quantum internet.
Yeah, that's it right there.
That's it.
Yeah.
Why would you say that, sir?
Because I honestly think that if aliens exist, they are what we call demons and angels back in thousands of years ago, and that they're extra dimensional entities that are able to cross into our realm of existence.
My
And
eyes got real wide.
So like, well, so something like quantum teleportation or being able to, so like I was going to say, either it's going to have to do with what will bring the aliens here will either be a quantum computer or something CERN does. The Large Hadron Collider. I know, well, but I'm just saying. So yeah, I think, yeah, that's definitely going to be one of those things. It's going to be something where it's like, tapping into another dimension, because I think that that's where these entities live. They don't live on planets. They live extra dimensionally.
Michael?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
Why not?
I can keep going. I just wasn't sure if...
I mean, yeah, you can tie information. Like, it makes sense why it would be quantum, because you can send information far distances, right? Because I believe that one was sending electrons across Canada.
I think it was sending them like above Canada, straight up, and then like doing something outward. But yeah, it could totally have unintended consequences.
Well, I mean, it makes sense that it would be the ability to communicate that would foster them to show up, right? Like, just look at it in our internet. Like, if you are just sitting on a network waiting to hear something, like a man in the middle type thing, you pick up something from somewhere, you're able to actually trace it back. So,
yeah,
maybe they traced it back to the humans and like, oh, let's go check on them and see how they're doing.
Yeah, they could have been like, whoa, did you hear that? Yeah, Tony, go check it out. And Tony whizzes by and he's like, oh, that was an accident. They're a couple years off. Yeah. Yeah, he's like, I whipped around real quick. I made a quick U-turn. It's not worth it. Well, yeah, I mean, I think those are good points. Communication is definitely a big factor. The quantum, the prospect of being able to move in ways that we couldn't before. It's maybe like the first step towards better tech down the road, and so
we're always moving towards better tech.
Definitely. Another thing that happened in 2017 was that a huge iceberg broke off from the Antarctic Peninsula, and it carried about 12% of the surface area of the fourth largest ice shelf. So if you're a believer of like, I don't know, like the aliens are some sort of like we're seeded from them and they're protecting us in some way, or maybe it's a Star Trek situation and they see a civilization headed to trouble, perhaps something like that on a global scale is worrisome, worth checking out. Also in 2017, we started to hear about the CRISPR experiments and advances in gene editing. I wasn't sure. I was like, I wonder if that could be it.
Well, that one kind of perks me up. Sorry to cut you off,
please do.
That one kind of perks me up too, because I think I've been seeing, and again, this is one of my wild speculations that I'll need to back up eventually. But
analyzed on the YouTubes.
No, but I think I've been seeing like cutting edge sort of experimentation about DNA and how it might be linked to alternate dimensions as well. What? So it's very possible that, if we're starting to gene edit, then we might have hit some sort of keyhole and like unlocked the door. We could.
Yeah.
Well, you think about like Yeah, if you think about like all this stuff that we talked about with the fifth dimension, with the meditation and stuff, it's all about vibrating and getting your DNA to sort of hit that sort of fifth dimensional space. So if we're manipulating genes, then maybe there's some sort of latent back door that we have in our genetic code that gets us in touch with the divine, and so perhaps they're responding to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just found out about a oceanic sea slug that can be decapitated, and then the head will slowly move and reattach to the body, and it will keep going on like nothing happened. Now, I've also heard of gene editing taking a mouse and making it glow in the dark. And I think they use properties from some bio animal that does glow at night. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I just think to myself, like, if there are capabilities that you can edit and splice, I mean, it's like the movie Splice, I think. Isn't that a movie, Splice, with Adrian Brody?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And so it's, like you could totally create a type of human that could do things that humans have been limited by. I mean, even if you think as simple as the gravitational forces that harm our bones when we go into space. Maybe there's a slug. Wait, no, slugs don't have bones. Maybe humans are born without bones, but they can get by. I don't know. I mean, that's crazy. But you know what I mean? Like, we could maybe engineer ourselves to be able to travel further.
There might be some like intergalactic law too that says you can't splice two intelligent lives, right? Like if there's some reverse engineering of some alien ship that crashed in some Antarctic thing that separated out, you'd find all this technology that you'd be able to reverse engineer and find things that you'd be able to splice. And so maybe it's just a check too to make sure that like we're not doing anything illegal even on like the galactic terms, because ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Yeah.
Even in intergalactic law.
I would just love that. Like some, alien shows up and they have a little clipboard and they're like, who's in charge here? We need to talk about some things.
There's just a giant fine. We have 3 things of intergalactic this.
Your planet is not up to code.
Yep. It will be destroyed in 2 weeks unless you bring it up to code.
Yeah.
Oh man. Bring your planet up to code. No, exactly. That's kind of like my thinking when I was going through like the major events of 2017 scientific news. It's like, which one of these things, and this next one is one that piqued my interest. So on the month prior, NASA sent their spacecraft Cassini plunging into Saturn's cloud tops to prevent it from accidentally crashing into and contaminating any of the moons that might be able to harbor life. Which is interesting for a couple of reasons. For example, one, when people ask where is Oumuamua now, folks speculate that it's somewhere between the orbits of Saturn and Neptune on its way to the great out there, but people are still debating about what trajectory it could have. But I think it's interesting that there's that planet Saturn. And then you have this spacecraft, which they crashed it because they've discovered one moon had water and fungi on it. And I just thought that was really interesting.
Don't mess with the fungus.
Don't mess with the fungi. Get venom, 100%. But I just thought that was cool. I mean, again, Saturn has a moon with an ocean inside of it, and it has a moon with fungi on it. And again, like fungi is life, right? So
yeah.
When you have exoplanets that very similar to Earth in the sense of its like distance from its own sun, its ability to have water, I mean, it just makes it seem like the discussion of intelligent life isn't as crazy as we've been told it is.
Well, we can do you one better. What if something like Oumuamua passed by one of those, moons and was able to collect some of the fungus and then slam into Earth?
Yep. Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
yeah, and
we
you
might
have
be
to
looking
look
at our biological ancestors if we find that fungus on Saturn, like the concept of
Ooh.
panspermia. This like
Yeah, that's an
having
interesting one.
asteroids collect microorganisms and then slam into planets and then propagate is it's
That's
weird.
a theory. Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
We all came from a fungus on one of Saturn's moons. that's
We are
a
pretty
trippy
fun.
origin story.
well, that's pretty neat. Makes remote viewing a lot easier to digest, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
use that mycelium network. We're all fungus connected, so we'll be
Yep.
able to start communicating with each other.
Weird.
I just want to be able to grow fungus on command. No, that'd be weird. That's a
Yeah.
good superpower.
Get itchy, I think.
Well, but if you think about it though, like we do have like somebody was telling me I need to start taking like reishi and lion's mane, and like
We have it in our kitchen. I take it every day. Yeah. I was
thanks
the one
for
telling you.
sharing, Smarty. No, somebody else told me, because you'll tell me stuff and I'm like, okay, Nick, but
Yeah,
other people will corroborate it and I'm like, oh, maybe I should look into
Oh,
this.
that sounds interesting.
Just being honest.
Yeah.
No, I love you. But my point was that we're studying more properties about how mushrooms can help with our brain regeneration and our like brain health and things like that. So gosh, could you imagine if we did come from fungi and like
I
that's
mean, part of our
why.
fungus
Well,
lives, in our, biome, our biological body. I mean, we have fungus in us. So yeah, I could see it.
Wait, would that just be cannibalism though? Is that like feeding apple juice to an apple tree?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think
know.
we should be eating mushrooms. We should really be taking care of those mushrooms.
Says
Yeah.
the guy with mushroom capsules.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
I'm taking
I might
my
be doing
reishi
a
and
wrong
lion's
thing.
mane. I don't know.
Yeah. Our ancestors might be angry at me.
Right. Oh yeah, no, and mushrooms are weird too, because there's another one. I think I've talked.
They're
about
not
before.
plants and they're not animals.
Yeah,
They're
and
in
there's
between.
one that it blooms and it'll infect an ant and
Cordyceps.
urge it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and there people take cordyceps too.
Yeah,
This
you
thing,
do it helps you increase muscle mass.
But like how? Because for the ant, it infects the brain. The ant goes to its home, dies, and then the spore pops out, and like they all like die or kill themselves. Or I don't know. It's like really freaky zombie stuff. Like just
Well, yeah,
Google.
penicillin kills bread, but it helps us fight diseases. So I mean,
It's a parasite that just turns you
Weird.
into a meathead.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, if you're listening, Google like fungi zombie ant, and
Yeah.
you'll find stuff. I think that's
It's
probably
the
good Google
cordyceps.
terms.
It's the cordyceps fungus. I mean, there's thousands of different types of
weird.
cordyceps. So the cordyceps that you take to gain muscle mass are not the same ones that create the zombie bugs, but it's the same family.
Okay, I think you told me this because when
Yeah.
you told me this the first time, I remember being like, that's where the zombies come from. And you
Yeah.
were like, no, it's a different one.
It's a different one. Same genus, same species, but not the same.
Got it. Well, okay, so I've talked a lot about exoplanets, but did you know it was in 2017, February, that scientists reported the discovery of 7 Earth-sized planets orbiting a star called TRAPPIST-1, just 12.5 parsecs, which is 41 light years from our sun. The system stands out for its sheer number of small planets, all in relatively temperate orbits around their sun. This makes them some of the most intriguing worlds to scrutinize through telescopes in coming years and to dream of for interplanetary visits. So again, I thought that was really interesting because we see this discovery of planets that are really similar to ours. Like, how trippy would it be if there were humans in one of those planets or on?
Do you
one
ever
of them?
think of that, like when we're looking at planets that we find that are like Earth, we're just looking at Earth and some other point in
Oh, gosh.
space and time?
That's creepy.
Like
Don't go
anytime
there.
we find a habitable planet, it's just us in some other space and time.
That's real Earth centric.
It
It
is very
is.
Earth-centric. But I mean, you know, it's the planet we live on and we don't know anything else. So
Well,
I'm gonna be a little Earth-centric.
So
but I have
planet-
this theory.
This sounds a little planetist. I don't like
Yes,
I
it
don't
is.
like it.
True. But I have a theory though, like if the Big Bang, like if we all started in this tight Big Bang, then like and there's like this circular explosion in every which way, I just feel like there's an Earth on the exact opposite side where you could find human-like creatures because, right, like you would have both been projected in about the same direction, just in opposite ways. I don't know.
Well, it would seem to be that there might be like a belt of life in the universe, which
Ooh.
is like, you know, all of these celestial bodies at the same point of time were able to, over amount of time, create life. And so it's like, you know, if you have the center point of the Big Bang, that would be like the first second of life. Then you expand out from there, and then there'd be this band of planets that at like, you know, 10 billion years of existence finally started to create life. And then maybe outward farther than that, you have higher advanced systems that have been, you know, creating life for more than billions of years.
It's not like porridge.
Just not what?
It's not like porridge. There's no
Not like
Goldilocks.
No, I mean, like, there's probably a Goldilocks zone for the universe in that there needs to be a certain level of time to allow life to be created, but I don't know. I mean, as far as the positioning in the universe, I don't think it has any effect too much, except if you're mapping the universe as the center of the universe being one.
Well, and
or
again,
zero.
It's interesting to think about. Oh God, zero. Is the universe a 0 or a 1?
Yes.
I mean, like those Goldilocks regions, it makes sense. I just think there's a little bit too much random phenomenon happening to reliably predict stuff, because there's so many collisions happening in so many places, right? There are definitely Goldilocks planets that resemble Earth. And my question is, like, if we do find life inside of Saturn's moon somewhere where there are humans, are we Earthlings or are we Saturnlings? Or do we lose our identity as like species? Or are we just
Well,
These
Saturn.
are big questions, Mike. I
are
don't
we
know.
just all of a sudden just like things? Like, do we just become humans? Or what is it?
Or
To
creatures?
be
be?
human, does that imply that we come from Earth?
We'd have to
Right.
call
Be a
ourselves.
human from Saturn.
Yeah,
Right.
we'd probably have to call ourselves something that whatever we name our son. So we'd be like soulings or something like that.
Allegedly.
Yeah, because it would probably have to be named after our star system. You know, like we're from planet, or we're from the solar system Sol. So yeah,
But if it's Saturn, like, because the moon
right.
in
But
question is
we could be from Earth or
insulated.
Saturn, or as long as we're within the solar system, we call ourselves soulings because we're from
Okay, I
this
see.
solar system where we named our son Sol.
I see. So we would be Earthlings. The Saturn moon people would be Enceladi's,
Mhm.
Enceladi people. And then as a
Collectively, we're
yeah, we'd be
soulings.
soulings. Interesting.
So,
So
you're
there we go,
saying
we
my
figured it out.
Plutonian theory still has a chance.
Yes.
We picked up one day from this planet, going back to Pluto.
That's right.
No, I mean, I think this is all really interesting stuff. Yeah, the Saturn moon, the discovery was in 2014. It's called Enceladus, and it harbors a large underground ocean of liquid water, furthering scientific interest in the moon as a potential home to extraterrestrial microbes.
And that's interesting because they say it's underground too, right?
Yeah.
So you might be
Not
actually
even
get more
underground ocean.
advanced sea creatures because they would be warmed by the core of the
True.
celestial. It's assuming that it's a moon, so I don't know if it has a core. But if it has an ocean, I would assume it has a core because moons. I don't think moons have cores, right? Am I tripping?
Know. Are
They're
they
just not
very
hot
thin?
cores. I don't know.
What is a
Honestly, I'm
moon?
not an astrophysicist, so
I know. I'm like, we need like a 101, like Space Talk 101, where we just go through.
well,
like,
our moon is just a piece of the Earth that shot away from us like 5 billion years ago or something
is
like
that
that.
what it is?
Yeah,
It's
we
a
got
piece
hit
of
by an
our-
asteroid. We got hit by an asteroid while the Earth was still liquidous, and it
Dude,
shot a piece of the Earth off of it, and that's what created the moon.
that's pretty cool.
It'd be nice if we had 2 moons.
It would be cool. It'd be
yes.
pretty.
I had a dream once that I was on an Earth that had a bunch of moons, and it was the coolest thing.
That was an Earth. That was Saturn.
Yeah.
Oh my
Went back
God,
to the
maybe I'm not.
ancestors.
Yeah.
It's the fungi or whatever. Well, yeah, no, I I think this is all interesting stuff. And where I wanted to leave it was on something I couldn't answer. So if anybody listening out there knows, or Nick and Mike, if you know the answer or want to help me research it, scientists, this object was discovered in Hawaii by scientists there, and they named it Oumuamua, which is the Hawaiian word for a scout or messenger.
Mhm.
Now I find this weird because they weren't able to take a photo, which I find weird because they're all like everybody like. Right? Like it's just part and parcel. There's always photos of something flying around out there. So I don't know why they don't have a photo of it. But also, at what point did they decide that was the appropriate name for it and why? I can't find out. I don't have
I think
the
like
names of the
it
people
means
or-
like harbinger too, though, right?
I mean, maybe I need to do a little more like native Hawaiian language researching, but I just got the definitions of scout and messenger. So it's
Well,
just interesting because it's like they knew something.
Well, it's possible because of its shape that they knew it wasn't something from the asteroid belt between Mars and Saturn.
But at first they thought it was a comet. Why would
So-
you call a comet a scout or messenger? And again,
because they
it was
come,
only
they go well.
identified as such a year later.
Well, because comets go through solar systems, they're notorious for that, and they travel wherever they want.
I don't know. It feels weird to me.
I mean, sure. I mean, like it's a little bit of prescribing meaning to names and stuff. I mean, like it could
hush
be.
it. I've seen that Elijah Wood film where he discovers an asteroid and they name it after him and his last name. Suddenly, I mean, I'm basing all of this on a movie I saw like 10 years ago. But, why wouldn't it have been the discoverer's last name or like numbers, that they like to do?
It's a good question. It's probably because it didn't stick around long enough for us to even like know anything except for that it passed us. To be honest, I mean, like it's possible that we just know very little about it.
But again, if their first that was asteroid, why call it the word that it wasn't called until a year later? Am I losing? Am I tripping?
Did they notice the strange motion at the time, or did they only notice the motion later? Because they might have prescribed a heavenly name for like a heavenly motion.
Again, I couldn't say. I'm going to try to set up a second episode on this to get really into the timeline and the attributes because Levi has about like 7 specific reasons he believes that this is like a interstellar proof thing, but they're a little bit complicated and it's theoretical, so I'm gonna keep looking into that. But I think
we need some tractor beams or something to stop these things when they're flying over, and just hold them there for a bit, and then we can go figure out what they are.
You mean like a force field thing? Yeah. It's tractor beam. You're right.
Yeah.
That's totally it.
Just be able to wrap it around and just hold on to it and be like, "What are you?"
Right.
It's like, "Oh, you're just a rock." Okay, let it go.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then like more recently, scientists have been responding to Dr. Loeb's conjectures and theories, and they're saying, well, it's not a comet and it's not an asteroid, but how about this? It is a cosmic iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be an iceberg.
Yeah, I believe they were saying it was made out of nitrogen too, right? It's like nitrogen ice. That's what they
I
think it was
guess.
made out of.
How do you know if you don't have a photo of it?
Yeah, how do any of them know anything
I'm
most
so
of the time?
confused by
Like,
this
you know,
thing.
like
I'm like,
I don't know. That's when I'm like, okay, well, how do we know that there's a 41 light years away? We know that there are habitable planets. I mean, it's just math. So, you know, like either the math is right or it's not. I guess that's it.
No, there's a little sign on it that said no photos, please.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Just passing through.
Perhaps. Well, and I also in the next episode want to talk a little bit about the co-author who is suspiciously quiet. Avi's doing all these interviews, but Shemuel Bayali, who's also named in this groundbreaking article, his focus at Harvard was in the search for habitability of the universe. And so, yeah, so this episode is do we, or I want to believe, and the next one I'm hoping for is to be called Do We Believe? So I'll try to share all the cool evidence for and against, maybe.
I thought you were going to be like, this episode is brought to you by Harvard, where you can
where you can get a degree in studying the habitability of the universe.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I could imagine my doctorate thesis just being no, and then that's it. Done. Give me my Harvard degree, please.
Well, I'll give you this much.
Have you been anywhere? Have
you been
anywhere? Well, there you go.
Exactly.
Conversely, there are theologians and psychologists and anthropologists who are all actually studying about humans' reactions to the emergence of aliens theoretically, which I think is really interesting. This might be a 3-parter, just because it's just fascinating to think about. There's so many ways to go.
It's like they're afraid. They're afraid to tell people that aliens exist, and everyone's like, I gotta pay rent. I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that I'd be mad about is like if they had some set of abilities that we didn't know, like telepathy, I guess, or like mind reading would be the big one, because it's like there should be some like with data privacy, right? I don't care that there's a species that can read minds. I do care that there has never been any consent in like just reading my mind. Like there has to be some sort of law there where it's like there has to be consent before you just start reading minds.
Yeah, if they land, I would expect them, if they're not from like the Galactic Federation or whatever, that they give us a business card where grievances could be made. Should this particular group of aliens be unfriendly or
it's just like some shredder that it goes to.
Oh, we like put all of our funds into like sending this grievance, and it goes to black hole somewhere. I don't know.
How's my flying? And there's a phone number you call, and you get to laugh at you and hang up.
Oh, that's pretty good. Well, that's all I have for tonight, guys. Thanks so much for playing in the land of ideas with me. Did you want to add anything about little green men before we head out for the night?
No, I think we're good. I mean, we're going to probably have this conversation a few more times, so I'll beat my same dead horse points another episode.
Aliens are cool. Little green men are the best role in King's Cup. And that's it. I only had 2 points. There's the third one.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks, Ayla. We really appreciate that. That was a great conversation. We hope that you guys enjoyed that as well. Please do leave us a comment with any feedback you might have for us. Do you believe? Do you want to believe? And we'll get back to you when you do that. We very much appreciate you. Thank you guys so much. Please consider giving us a like and a subscription on our YouTube page. That's youtube.com/Exofathom. We would very much appreciate that. Other than that, you guys stay out there, and we will catch you on the next Exofathom. Good night.
Peace.
Later.